Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie and today I am going to be doing my June wrap up. First, I want to apologize for the crazy mess of a dog right here. She likes to thump her tail and she likes to snore and she likes to make a lot of noise in the background. And so I'm sorry if that happens. But I need to go ahead and film these, so you're just gonna have to deal with the little doggy noises in the background. She is a good girl, and her name is Lucy. If you don't know, she's my newest little adoptee, and I love her to pieces. So anyway, for the month of June, I read 10 books, which was way better than the month of May. And out of those 10 books, I had one 1-star read, 2 2-star reads, 3 3-star reads, 2 4-star reads, and 2 5-star reads. It was kind of all over the place. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'm just going to talk about them in the order in which I read them. The first of which is going to be The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. And this one was okay. It was a 3-star read for me. This is about Eddie, Jane, and Bea. And this is a classic retelling, which I didn't know going in, but it's a classic retelling of Jane Eyre. I've never read Jane Eyre, so I don't really know if this is a good retelling or not. Honestly, I thought that this is kind of like the washed out Wish version of Verity. And I loved Verity. Love Verity. 5-star read. Loved it. So this is kind of a psychological thriller, and it is a domestic thriller. So it is about a man who has a wife named Bea, and Bea is presumed missing. She's been missing. Her best friend has washed up dead, and she was on the same boat as her best friend. And so everybody thinks that his wife is dead. It's been over a year. And there's this new girl who comes into town. She is a dog walker for all these like rich, wealthy families. She basically has nothing. And so she happens to find him, and he almost runs her over. And they end up starting a conversation, become friendly. They very quickly move into a relationship. She knows all about Bea, and she almost becomes kind of sort of obsessed with Bea. And of the fact that she wants to be just like her. She wants to be the new version of her. And so she looks at what she's wearing in pictures, and she looks at how she acts and how she looks. And so she's trying to copy that, and she's trying to become the new Bea. And it's quite entertaining. I really don't want to give anything away because this is a thriller, so there's some twists and turns. It was okay. I will say that it is kind of similar to Verity in a way, in the fact of, you know, it's a guy who has a wife and now he has this girl that he's dating, and yeah, some shenanigans ensue. I enjoyed Verity more than this, but if you are really into Verity and you're looking for something to maybe possibly read that's similar, I would kind of suggest this. The next book that I read is going to be The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Another new to me author, another kind of mystery thriller book. This one is about a girl who has been married to this guy for less than a year. She didn't really know him super well before they got married. He has a kid, and they're living this amazing, great life, she thinks. And then one day he disappears. And in disappearing, he gives somebody a note to give her, and all it says is to protect her, which obviously the protect her is going to be his daughter. And she is on this mission to figure out why he disappeared, what's going on. There's this big thing going on with his whole company where people are getting arrested. And it's this big, gigantic mystery plot as to, is he guilty? Is that why he's running? What's really happening? And what a woman will do for a man that she married. And I felt that it was fascinating, but it was also sad at times. It was also a little boring at times. It was an okay read. I gave it 3 stars once again. I was really sad about the ending. I understood why the ending was the way that it was, but you know, I'm a romantic at heart, so I was really kind of hoping for the happily ever after, and that really just doesn't happen in this book. But I don't really want to give any more away other than that. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite thriller, but I really did enjoy it. The next book that I picked up is The Hunting Wives. Yes, I totally went on a thriller kick. This is by May Cobb, and so this book, if you don't know what it's about Margot, who is kind of a Regina George figure, if you will. She is beautiful, she's smart, she's gorgeous, she has that kind of it factor, that special, I don't even know how to say it. Like, she just has it. That thing that makes everybody kind of gravitate towards her. So it doesn't matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're a teenage boy, you're all kind of gravitating towards her. She's the center of her world. She's the center of everybody else's in her friend group world. Like, everybody kind of revolves around Margot. And Margot has this group of friends who are what they call the hunting wives. They're all in their like late 30s to early 40s, and they all have husbands, they all have children, and they go out, they shoot their guns, they talk about whatever latest gossip that is out there. So this book is also about Sophie, and Sophie has recently moved back to this small town. It's in Texas, and she becomes obsessed with Margot. Like, she just thinks that Margot is it. And it kind of has a little bit of a bisexual vibe to this book, which I wasn't expecting but really loved. Anyway, there's also a bit of a murder mystery plotline, which kind of weaves itself in and out of the story. I cared more about Margot and her group of friends than I really did the murder mystery plotline, but it all kind of tied in together. It was really good. I gave this book 4 stars. It was a fun, wild ride that I just really, really enjoyed. The next book that I finished is A Nearly Normal Family. This is by M.T. Edvardsen, and this is also a thriller, but it's more of a legal kind of thriller, which I actually enjoyed because it's a legal thriller, but it was done in the perspective of a family. So there is the mother, who is a lawyer, there's a father who's a pastor, and then there's a kid who is 18 years old, just turned 18, and is accused of murder. And it's what a family will go through, what a person will go through to fight for their family versus their values. And you don't really know if this 18-year-old girl killed this man until the very last chapter of the book, which I love in thrillers. It's a fascinating story. It's not super big on the legal aspect of it. It is told in all 3 perspectives. You have the mother, you have the father, and you have the child. And it's just really, really fascinating. It's about a girl who's 18, meets this man who's a little older, who is known for being abusive towards women in a way, but he's also known as being very respected in the community, and has a mother who is high up in this like legal thing. It's also based in Sweden. So that I totally wasn't expecting that, but I really enjoyed it. However, I will say one thing, and that is because it is based in Sweden, there's a lot of towns, cities, and places in here that I would never have been able to pronounce or understood. I listened to this on audio while I read the actual physical book, and I highly, highly think the audiobook is the way to go if you're going to read this. I love the audiobook. Gave it, I believe, 4 stars? Yes. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I really enjoyed this book, and I would recommend it. The next book I read was Saving Grace. This is by A.D. Justice. This is the first book that I've read by this author as well. I got it at Half Price Books. Obviously, it still has the tag on it, and it is signed by the author. So this book, the blurb on it sounded freaking fantastic. And so it's basically, I'm just going to read this blurb because it makes most sense to do so in this one. It says, I wanted to ask for a divorce. Instead of the fight I expected, she agreed, with a few stipulations, all of which revolved around our son leaving for college in the fall. Keeping these promises would be a challenge, no doubt, but all I had to do was uphold my end of the deal, then walk away without a backwards glance. Somewhere along the way, our charade became my reality. With each day that passes, I realize time is once again my enemy. I can't lose her a second time. I'll never walk away. She healed my soul. Saving grace is now my only hope. So, several years ago, there was this short story that was going around, making its rounds on Facebook, that I read and fell in love with, and it broke my heart. And this short story sounded just like the blurb on the back of this book. And I always thought, whenever I read this story on Facebook, that it would make a beautiful book. And it's basically about a girl who, her husband had asked for a divorce, and she knew it was coming. But she said, okay, I'll grant you the divorce, but every day you have to carry me to bed for so many days or whatever. And he agreed, and over time, as he was doing it, he ended up falling back in love with his wife, and he ends up leaving this person that he was seeing. He was cheating on her, and he ends up leaving that person and coming back to her, but by that time it was already too late. She had died. She had died of cancer or something. It's one of those like things that just kind of hit you. I don't really know if I'm even making sense, but this book sounded just like that little short story on Facebook, and I wanted to read it. I was so desperate to love this story. It was exactly that Facebook short story, though. Like, it was almost verbatim what that Facebook short story was. It was like basically copy and pasted. It was not well done. It wasn't very well executed at all. I gave it 2 stars. So basically, this guy's cheating on his wife. He goes and he asks for a divorce. She sees it coming. So she sits down and says, we need to have a talk. I know you're cheating on me. If you want to be with her, that's fine, but you're not going to do this in front of our son. You're going to show an example of who you really are, like of what a man should treat a woman as. After this 1 year, you're not going to see her for this year. You're not going to do whatever. And then after this year, whenever he's off in college, I will grant you your divorce. I'll give you half of everything. I'll give you the house. I'll give you whatever you want. Just this 1 year, you've got to stay with me. You've got to stop seeing your little floozy, and you've got to treat me with respect to show our son how a man actually is supposed to treat a woman, which I loved. I enjoyed the first part of the book. The issue is that he jumps from wanting a divorce to falling back into love with his wife so fast. Like, it's not a slow burn at all. Like, you needed that time and that like give and take and the slow build up of falling back in love, and it was just insta love immediately. It just didn't make any sense. And then it immediately went into her being sick and almost dying, and it was basically like the Facebook story. The execution of this book was not well done. Overall, it was a 2-star read. I'm going to be getting rid of this book. It just wasn't for me. I really, really, really wanted to love this book, and I just did not. The next book that I read is Like You, Love Me by Adriana Locke. This is about a small town girl who's a bed and breakfast owner. It's childhood, kind of friends to lovers story, second chance romance kind of thing. The main guy is a vet, and he is coming to the small town to work for his grandpa for a little while. He is used to being in the city, and he used to come down and spend every summer with his grandpa, though. And so he's coming back to work for his grandpa for a little while his grandpa is going out of town or something. Anyway, long story short, they have this weird marriage of convenience. It didn't make sense for me at all, the marriage of convenience. I didn't understand what the point of that part of the book was, but it was still really cute with the small town vet meets a girl who owns her own bed and breakfast. It was a really cute small town friends to lovers romance book, and I would definitely recommend. I did give this book 4 stars. The next book that I have to talk about is going to be Tattered by Devney Perry. I gave this book 5 stars. This is what I expected the other book that I read by Devney Perry to be. So I read her other book. It was a small town like sheriff romance, and I hated it. Some kind of a Clover Farm Clover Farm book. I don't remember the title of it, but I hated that book and I didn't understand why so many people were obsessed with Devney Perry. I get it after reading this one. This is about a girl who at a very, like as an infant, she was dumped in the trash can and, or at a firehouse. Anyway, she was dumped and she was left as a kid to be an orphan. She's never really had much growing up. She had a one-night stand, and in that one-night stand in New York resulted in a pregnancy. They never gave any names or anything out, so she was not able to find the father of her child. She ends up moving away to a completely different state, and it's like 8 years later, she's got this young girl that she's raising, living her life, just doing what she's supposed to, and she's still working as a bartender. That's how she met this guy that she had a one-night stand with. Still working as a bartender, and one day, the father of her child walks into this Montana little small town bar, and she's just like, oh shit, like here he is. And he ends up finding out he has a daughter, and it is their relationship. And I just can't say anything more than that. It is so beautiful and sweet, and I loved every single second of this book. I would recommend it, highly, highly recommend it. The next book I don't want to spend just a whole lot of time on. I'm just going to tell you this book is terrible. It's Stepbrother Billionaire by Colleen Masters. The first half of this book, what I was here for, I really enjoyed it. I'm like, I don't understand why this has so many bad reviews. It's really good. It starts out as teenagers, obviously stepbrother, so a little bit of a forbidden love kind of situation going on. They were in high school. Parents were both kind of shitty people. They had each other. They fell in love. They would sneak into each other's rooms and hold on to each other, fell in love, that kind of thing. And then there's like this giant 8-year time gap, and then the book just completely falls apart. It's like somebody else wrote it. It goes way, way, way downhill, out of left field. It's awful. I gave this book 2 stars, and that's being generous. I'm getting rid of this book. I wouldn't recommend it. And the next book should have been called Crash and Burn, but it's just called Burn. It's by Alexandra Silva. I've never heard of this author before. This was a book that was in my reveal book box. It's signed. I gave this book 1 star. For me to give a book 1 star, you know it has to be bad. This book made no sense to me. The entire book, I kept trying to figure out what was going on. It was like this flowery lyrical writing that just kind of went over and over in a circle. I still don't know what this book is about. And I kept thinking, maybe like it's written in this weird way for a reason. Maybe there's a point. Maybe if I keep reading, I'll find that point. This is a big book with little writing. It's a beautiful book. Like there's every single chapter is like in black, and I mean, it's a beautiful book. But it's one of the worst books I've ever read. I still don't know what I read. I could not tell you what this book is about for the life of me. I don't know what I wasted my time reading this for. I'm getting rid of it. It was awful. This will be coming in a giveaway because maybe somebody else will enjoy it. Maybe somebody else's head is more profound than mine, and maybe they'll understand it better because I sure as heck didn't. Anyway, I definitely am planning on giving this one away though, because it's a beautiful book. It's signed by the author. It's an indie book. And maybe somebody else will find better enjoyment out of this than I will in the future. And the last book that I have to talk about is probably my favorite romance book that I read in the month of June. That is going to be The Player Next Door by K.A. Tucker. And this is about Scarlett and Shane. Scarlett and Shane used to date in high school. They were together for a summer, and Shane completely broke Scarlett's heart. And she has never forgiven him. It's now several years later, and she is moving back. She is I believe an elementary school teacher, and she never thought she would come back to her hometown because of all of this hate that she had. She was raised by a single mother who was kind of known to sleep around with everybody, and so she was really embarrassed going there. She was treated really badly in high school by a girl, and Shane not only dumped her, but he dumped her for this girl who treated her like utter crap after like saying how much he loved her and like making her fall head over heels in love with him. So she's like, she never wanted to come back to the small town, but she does, and she ends up getting this house that she's always loved since she was a child. And of course, the boy next door happens to be Shane. And so it's like this enemies to lovers. Like, she doesn't want to forgive him. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She just wants him to leave her alone. But he keeps like coming over and helping her out. He does all these like sweet things, and you're just like, your heart just starts to like butter up to this guy. And then you find out that he has a kid. And not only does he have a kid, but he has a kid with a girl who treated her like crap. So it's this whole thing. This book is super sweet. It's fun. It's easy. It's fluffy. And I just really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I highly recommend this book. All right, that's it. That's all of the books that I read for the month of June. Did you read any of these books? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Let me know. We'll talk about it in the comments below. I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next video.